There's some similarities which we're going to get more into music and investing, especially as I started prepping for this interview and thinking about it more. And one of those is just being able to, you have to be able to spot talent. You have to be able to embrace risk, where you're basically making a bet on a talent. You're leaning into potential. It's incredibly similar to being in venture capital, where you really have to be able to see the potential. You don't earn a return unless your investors do. In this case, you don't earn a return unless your artist does, unless your artist actually makes money. Music and investing start to feel very similar. Is that how you think about it? And am I kind of loosely getting that right in terms of maybe what attracts you to both being an artist manager and being an investor?
Absolutely. And I didn't realize that until I started angel investing and I wrote my first check. Very quickly, I started to learn the similarities. And I can say the way that I look at investments, the stage in which I invest in businesses is probably where those similarities come from. And also, I didn't get into angel investing until I was probably 5 years into my career, where I was a little more self-aware about what my skill sets were. When I was starting out, I had no previous experience. I was still in college, so hadn't really worked, hadn't really done anything. Again, I was working in retail at a mall, right? So I had to learn by operating on a daily basis. And I think over time, I started to realize, okay, that's probably something I'm actually good at, and that's probably something I'm decent at. And after the first 5 years, you can start to put together a list of like, okay, here's a few things that I know I'm good at, and I have that level of confidence in. And then here's a whole list of things that I'm not very good at, right? And I think what good operators and good managers do is you try to find people to partner with and work with who are their strong suits are what your weaknesses are. And I think I've been able to do that. I brought on a business partner, 9 years ago, Harrison Remler, who I've worked with on numerous ventures to this day. And him and I are yin and yang, right? We're polar opposites in what our strengths and weaknesses are in business. So I think that's a first. And then once I became self-aware of those things and then dove into the investing world, I started realizing, okay, my abilities as a talent manager, for one example, is the ability to find talent. That's something I was doing consistently for years from a young age. A lot of the same characteristics and qualities that my most successful clients have, I was able to pinpoint in a lot of the founders that I invested in. And then as years have gone by and those companies have become successful, you realize, okay, there's overlap there, right? They share the same characteristics and qualities. And if I can identify those in individuals and bet on them, probably going to be a good early stage investor. And then the second piece of that, and the second bucket, is one of the things I've been good at and I've done consistently as a manager was always had a unique ability to kind of predict where the world is moving, generally before most people saw it, right? That was the only competitive advantage I had bootstrapping the business, was placing my clients where I knew attention would be, essentially while real estate was still cheap in that area, right? So partnering with FaZe Clan in 2011, right? People weren't talking about esports, but I knew this was going to be a huge audience and it was growing really quickly, and it made a lot of sense for Logic's audience. There's a lot of crossover. So if you can do those things, you can identify talent in an individual, and if the business or business model that they're building aligned with my worldview on where I thought the world was moving, I would make an investment. And that's kind of the comfortable place that I kind of fell into as an investor, and I've been doubling down on that and now raising a fund in order to do that, because I have a track record and I have a portfolio of 20 plus companies that I've been able to invest in, and it's focusing on that. So I think it's just doubling down on what I've identified as my skill sets. That's all.